Hi everyone, it's Chenso from RealityArtPod, here to rank the players of Big Brother 27 based on how I feel they're doing in the game as of the end of Thursday night's eviction episode in week 3. Before I dive in, I put a link to my BB27 playlist for all my recaps and rankings. You can catch up on Big Brother and watch the live feeds using my link to try Paramount Plus for free. And if you like the video, consider liking and subscribing. This week saw Lauren's indecisive HOH reign, Keanu saving himself with the veto, and Kelly winning yet another blockbuster competition. So let's talk about our evicted house guest in Adrian, who preseason I ranked 11th, and last week was 7th. I felt positively about him coming into this week, that the house would have loved how honest he was last week, and he could fade into the background, but he just doesn't do a good enough job gaming to make his position in the house any better. He should have approached Lauren right away and worked much harder on the outside of the week to improve his position, but he continues to play passively, ends up on the block, and this is what happens. How will we go on without the GOAT? But let's get to the rankings. In 14th, I have Keanu, who last week was 15th. Once again, he's the clear house target in week 2. Once again, he's easily nominated and likely goes home. What I'll give him some credit for is he did a better job this week gaming than last week, trying to make nice with Rachel in a conversation that didn't end with her storming off, but he continues to lie to her about his week 1 vote, and she knows it. He wins a much needed veto, which is positive. He was flying through that veto too. With the veto ceremony approaching and the house divided in opinion between Adrian and Ashley, Keanu finds himself on a side, but not an alliance. Though he not only thinks he's in an alliance, but that he's in charge of it. In fact, he tells everyone to step aside because he's going to convince Lauren to nominate Ashley. And his campaign to Lauren is so weak. A big part of Lauren nominating Adrian was Lauren not wanting to be associated with Keanu. He continues to be such a gullible oaf and believes everything that anyone tells him, except when someone is trying to help him, then he won't believe it. And he goes on to vote wrong again, even after voting wrong the first time resulted in his first nomination, which he's still lying about. And that has caused him so much grief, even to this day. He votes wrong again. So I think he'll still be a target for the week. And the closer we get to jury, the more these people will not want to spend more time with him than they have to. In 13th, I have Riley, who last week was 13th. There's not too much to say about Riley. He's firmly wedged up Catherine's butt, each day falling deeper and deeper in love with her, making problematic comments about her sitting on his lap, rubbing her back. It's hard to watch, and he's still committed to putting her game above his. At some point, he was in good with the whole house socially, but now he's been kicked out of the heavy hitters, and I feel like he always has something on the tip of his tongue that can get him expelled from the house, so he's towards the bottom for me. There's a big gap between Keanu and Riley in this rank. Add on to all of this, he votes against the house, which makes him such an easy person to put on the block this week, and he could go home. In 12th, I have Kelly, who last week was 14th. After saving herself with the veto last week, she decided to double down on shit stirring all week long, which annoyed the other house guests, but at times did cause a bit of trouble here and there between other players, but it usually comes back to Kelly. I don't know what she did to get Lauren and her friends to warm up to her, but it worked enough to get them to consider her an asset, but not enough for them to consider keeping her this week had she stayed on the block. I don't know what to make of her volunteering to go on the block again. I feel like the first cut was the deepest, as the first time set her up to be on the block over and over, but these last 2 times she would have been on the block no matter what she said. It does help that she has a level of confidence that should be studied. She was slated to go home this week and once again saved herself. She's in a better place this week too. If someone on her side wins HOH, they shouldn't put her up even if she wants to be nominated. And with tensions rising left and right, she could actually survive a vote against players on both sides. In 11th, I have Catherine, who last week was 12th. Coming into this week, she was a target for a lot of the other players. Had they won HOH, she lucked out when her friend Lauren won HOH and kept her safe, but Lauren decided to distance herself from Catherine and barely hung out with her for the first half of the week, while at the same time Catherine was taking being a have-not horribly. Why are we still doing have-nots? Have-nots haven't been mentioned on the show for 2 weeks. Catherine was tired, grumpy, and miserable all week, and through that, pretty invisible on the feeds. There are whole days where I don't see her at all, which I guess is a low profile, and she benefited from being iced out by Lauren because the other side of the house are seeing that the decisions made aren't controlled by Catherine. Towards the end of the week, she becomes sure of her decision to vote against Will, with her logic being that Will nominate her, which is logical and makes sense, but she ends up sticking with that and voting wrong, which could undo a lot of the progress that she's accidentally made this week and be an easy nominee for the other side of the house, who, if they win HOH, they have 4 easy noms in Riley, Catherine, Kelly, and Keanu. In 10th, I have Will, who last week was 6th. I felt like Will was in a good spot. He should not have been nominated this week, but Lauren takes the easy way out, only considering nominations that have been nominated before, so he's really put up due to no fault of his own, and there was no way he was winning that physical POV. I think Will as a character is funny. I like his DRs, calling things weak and bitch-ass moves. It's a delight, but I still struggle to see him as a strategic force in the game. In my opinion, he didn't campaign hard enough for himself and almost got voted out. I have him higher than others because he's more loved in the house than everyone below him on this list, but that could only go so far. In 9th, I have Ashley, who last week was 11th. I was worried for her because she's a target for the other side, and when Lauren won HOH, it was looking bleak for Ashley, as Lauren and Catherine were talking last week about how annoyed they were by her and wanting her out, but Lauren makes weenie nominations that save Ashley, and Ashley did a great job putting pressure on Lauren, confidently approaching her in advance of the veto meeting meeting and being like, "So you're obviously not putting me up. Isn't that amazing for us?" Which was bold, confident, and worked. She also had the support of an entire side of the house, which is way better than last week where some of her own side were getting really annoyed by her. Even though she was at risk of going home this week, she played better than she did last week, and her allies are making bigger targets of themselves, which can help her fade into the background a little. In 8B, I have Liz and Julia. As we learned on the news, these twins saved their father in a tragic fall. I was prepared to rank them higher, maybe number 1, but when they started riding in the ambulance just for fun, they lost me with that. Add on to that, I'm pretty sure they're causing the accidents by standing on the side of the street dressed exactly alike. In 8A, I have Vince, who last week was 3rd. Coming into this week, he was kind of in good with everyone, but as soon as Lauren wins her HOH, he's trying to influence the nominations. Keep in mind, he was HOH week 1, then in Jimmy's ear all week 2, and now he's basically been HOH for 3 weeks in a row, and that's why we've gotten the same variation of weenie nominations over and over. He's made so many promises, and you know the show can't wait for his house of cards to come crashing down. Players in the house are onto him playing everyone, and him letting Adrian go this week over Will, and allowing the other side of the house to keep a number over him losing a number, this was just bad, and he should have worked harder for either Lauren to nominate Ashley or to get this to go to a tie. They weenied out and left their allies hanging, showing once again that he's a weenie, and he's one bad HOH result away from a crash out. We've yet to see him scurry with someone that's not tight with him in power. Let's go to my number 7. I have Morgan, who last week was 9th. She dramatically dropped last week, and I don't think she did much better this week. She's lucky it was Lauren in charge and not someone who had more of an appetite to make a big move, because the other side of the house rumbled all week about how they wanted Morgan and Mickey on the block and see them both as allies and big threats. Morgan was really pushing for Ashley not to go on the block, and while Ashley wasn't nominated and that's what she was trying to have happen, her portion of the campaign was the least effective. She's so transparently gaming that it makes it hard for anyone to buy into it. When she's making her pitches, she comes across as a used car salesman or politician, and I worry that when it's her time to pitch to save herself, especially if she's against Mickey, it'll be ineffective. Add on to that, she's very distracted by her crush on Zach, and everyone in the house can see that she's jealous of Lauren. Her fractured relationships with her allies leave her on thin ice with them, but I actually think she's closer to Vince and Zach targeting her than Mickey and Jimmy, and she's focusing her energy in the wrong direction. In 6th, I have Lauren, who last week was 5th. She wins this HOH when she absolutely did not need to, especially because she didn't want to be HOH either. As a viewer, a bad HOH reign drags so much and sets a negative tone for the week. It's also frustrating how she acts indecisive, but only because she knows what she wants to do and does this whole performative act about it to take no accountability. She nominates Keanu, Kelly, and Will. I don't even feel that bad about these nominations because they were safe, so whatever. Lauren's decision to nominate Adrian went against her own alliance's advice and only helped the other side of the house. That was bad. And then after all this, she really could have pushed for there to be a tie and evicted Will to give her side some more numbers. I also fault her and her side for not heavily considering keeping Kelly as well. So you may be wondering why she's still so high up. Well, that's because the decisions that she made this week were incredibly selfish. She avoided making herself a target and also lowered her threat level with weak nominations. She also made a deal with the other side to keep herself safe in exchange for not nominating Ashley. So while we can say what we want, she probably did make the best choices for her own self-preservation in the near term. Long term, I don't know. In 5th, I have Mickey, who last week was 4th. I'm on the fence about Mickey because I really like her in general, and when I think of her game, it's mostly good. I like that she was safe this week and that she was the most effective in the campaign to save Ashley. She really ate that. I still just don't like this power situation, and I feel like when she uses it, it's going to blow up her game. I also don't like the deterioration of Triple Threat, which at some point was the strongest alliance in the house. She was roped into the heavy hitters, but I still feel like that alliance is fake. But in the end, the outcome this week was good for her. I'd still like to see her get some real power or successfully use her power. In 4th, I'm putting Jimmy, who last week was 10th. Jimmy had just come out of what I'd still call a mismanaged HOH, comes into this week with a lot of relationships on shaky ground. With his friend as HOH, he's given the space this week to rebuild some of those bonds. It seems like he realized that the grass was greener with his old friends as he hung out more closely with the Triple Threats and gets even closer to Rachel. While Triple Threats still aren't trusting him and giving him information, he's still a swing between both sides. They both need him, and I still think he can save himself from the block if he's on it. I have him above Mickey because he is more successfully playing both sides. In 3rd, I have Zach, who was 1st last week. When Lauren wins HOH, he's sitting pretty. He's not playing a perfect game. I don't even think he's playing that well, but he is a golden boy and his head is mostly in the game. He tries to influence Lauren's HOH, but failed at getting her to nominate Ashley, which isn't good, especially when the other side knew he was trying to do that, and they sent home Adrian, who was his buddy, which is also not good. But he remains socially in a great place overall. He has Lauren, Ashley, and Morgan all in love with him, and he has his secret power, which gives him a bonus life, and after 3 weeks, he's barely had to lift a finger to keep himself in good standing. In 2nd, I have Rachel, who last week was 8th. Coming out of just losing Amy, Rachel had her moment, mourning Amy, but she never stopped playing. She's free of the target of being in a duo, and makes a replacement final 2 with Ava, who is a very influential, loyal person in the house, and a much better ally than Amy. So she's upgraded her final 2, but she also got tighter with her group and has played down her threat level, making the other side not see her as a priority, which is wild. I'm even starting to feel like she could survive an eviction vote. One of Rachel's biggest strategies has been telling everyone to keep her and take her to final 2 because anybody of them can beat her, who would give me the money again? And Adrian even said in his eviction interview, nobody's targeting her because they believe that, which means they're really underestimating her, which is great for Rachel. And finally, in first, I have Ava, who last week was second. I stay impressed with her ability to be loved by everyone in the house, and how important her vote always is. She made a very good, strong alliance with her new final two in Rachel, and Ava's still never brought up as a target. With her friend Will on the block, at the end of the week, Ava stands her ground, and through that, she talks Vince and Zach out of tying up the vote, saving her friend and ally Will, and keeping her side of the house stronger, while still being a swing player. So I have to reward her for getting active in the game, and making probably the play of the week. So those are my rankings for week 3, but let me know in the comments, what are your rankings, and what do you think of this week? If you like this video, consider liking and subscribing. I'll be back next week to recap all 3 episodes and do more rankings. Until next time, you know where to find me. Bye!